Hello and welcome everybody to another edition here of the Quantum Compass. This is in fact episode number 16. My name is Davyd Farrell and I'm joined by...
Alvaran. Hi everybody and welcome back.
All right, so we are rapidly moving through these wave spells across the course of the new Zolkin, across the course of the new lunar year. It's been an incredibly intense month or so, I would say, during this first castle of this new Zolkin. And we're here to tell you that
it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse. I mean, worse is a relative word, and it's not one that we tend to like to use. But I would suggest that what we're going to look at today makes this possibly one of the most important shows I think that we've done, Bella. We have debated long and hard in the days running up to doing this about what we want to share, how to share it. We're also very positive people, but in all honesty, we're saying that this blue healing hand wave spell has been tough. The path of the Jaguar, which was during the wave spell of the White Wizard, was incredibly profound, very, very strong, lots of cat energy, lots of incoming goddess, 5D energy, lots of new earth energy, which at the same time is also needing to be integrated into our physical bodies, which is causing quite a few of us, myself included, some physical discomfort as we get rewired and recalibrated. I'm sorry to say, I do think that is part of the so-called ascension symptoms and processes. And rather than reject it, we're having to go even deeper into it, really go into what's in the body, what's coming through us so that we can release it. The only way through, apparently, is through. So I think we have to factor that in. And every day is about grounding, centering, making sure that we're getting the most out of each day. And some days that's definitely proved difficult. So if any of you out there have had a tough 10 days or so prior to this, you're not the only ones. We've also been experiencing and trying to work out why. When I look at the astrology of the upcoming 2 weeks and what is being played out on the goggle box, I think we can get some sort of idea, right, Bella? So we're going to try and pick this apart as best we can. We're going to try and lift it to the notes that we think are the most important, but also at the same time try and share how we think we're going to try and navigate this and maybe...
try to share some tools so that we can all surf these wave spell a little better.
Right, exactly. So as always, we're going to follow our usual format, and Bella's going to lead us into this by looking at this first concluding wave spell to the first castle of the year, right, Bella?
Yes. So we're going to start with this wave spell. We need this wave spell, to be honest. Illumination with the sun. There is going to be a lot of activity from the sun from that. Let's start with what we have been experiencing already, which is the storm. We talked in the last show how the storm year is here. It started on the 26th of July, and it is forced evolution. It is going to force us to, it's going to catalyze things, and this wave spell is going to be the one that shows us a lot of this storm. But we know that this storm is here because we are in an accelerated process and in a very transformative journey that we have embarked on. So this journey is going to force us to move forward and get rid of anything that doesn't serve us anymore. And all of this is connected to our process and consciousness and the evolution of consciousness that we are experiencing at the moment, which is going to propel us and accelerate us and move us forward. I wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of time, which is very much the topic of this Quantum Compass and the course, the Mayan Time and Magic course, because it's all to do with the different way of looking at time, not in a linear way, but in spiral and in cycles, basically. And if you can see here, these are the natural spirals, the natural ways of movement and energy, and this reconnects us with the power of number 13, because as you know, this is part of the golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence. Number 13 is here, number 5 is here. So this is the natural way of things, of our nature and everything else. So since time has accelerated compared to previous, I'm sure that you also feel this, and many people as well, how time has accelerated more and more and more and more in the last years compared to the previous decades. So this is connected to the higher consciousness levels that we are reaching. And the time is just that measure of how our consciousness kind of makes us live in this reality of 3D. That is why it's so important that we take back control of our time. And one way of doing that is to raise our vibration and to be in a more heart-centered consciousness. And this is the first key to navigating this process, because everything is accelerated. The sun is giving us more solar flares, and the only way to ground is to be able to come back into our hearts, and where our experiences are the ones that become the core of our existence, and we can create our reality from that point. Where synchronicities are the ones that guide us. So one of the things that people do in the courses following the Mayan calendar can experience and even give testimonial is the amount of synchronicities. And that is like going with the flow and understanding the universe collaborating with you and giving you guidance at the same time. The other point connected to time, or the new way of time and living, is reconnecting with the power of intuition, which is one of the aspects of higher consciousness. So that the more that we're connected to these synchronicities, to this intuition, to the heart center consciousness, the more that time is going to become that flow of consciousness, like a dance, like spiral, a natural spiral. Did you want to add anything up to that?
Just from the previous slide, that interestingly, this particular wave spell that we're currently in, the blue hand, I think just to go back one more, is also the energy of the cosmic storm. Day 13 of this wave spell, so in a couple of days from now, the final day before we go into this, is finishing on the blue cosmic storm energy. Day 15, we covered it in the previous wave spell. It's also a galactic activation portal, which is interesting. So the energy of the storm is very much here. I think many of us can feel it in the collective, and it's part of what's coming up. But of course, the 15th is also the day that Mars squares Saturn, which in itself suggests storm energy. So that's the first point. The second one that you alluded to, which is probably going to come up, I think, Bella, in a minute, is also about the sun. Our colleague and friend, Stefan Burns, is doing an amazing job tracking the energy of the sun, and he's showing that there is major sun activity inbound during this very strong yellow wave spell that we've got coming up with the solar energy, which I think is also interesting. Many of us perceiving that the sun is probably one of the major influences in the transition. And also the piece about time, Bella. Yeah, I mean, many people have been saying over the last couple of weeks, even months in some cases, lots of old memories from earlier in their life bubbling up.
Yep.
Timelines having to be revisited to make sure maybe they've been put to bed. Also, yes, either the sense of accelerated time, or even maybe the opposite, a sense of time stretching out and not even knowing what day of the week it is or what the date is. I know that we've experienced that, and many of my friends have also expressed that over the last couple of weeks. Say, hey, I'm not really sure what day it is. Is it the weekend? Is it Wednesday? So we're all experiencing some sort of, I would say, disintegration of the reality we've been living.
This is one of the points I wanted to touch on, because the perception of time is tied up to the state of your inner being. So you know that when you're having fun, the time can really fly, or it can drag if you're in the place that you don't want to be or doing something that you hate. So this is why it was important to come back to this slide. Like, once you get your heart-centered consciousness and you're following your intuition and what you want to do and bringing joy, if you do more of what you want to do, love to do and enjoy doing, then the time also is going to be more fluid, and you're going to be able to work with it and come into alignment. So talking about that, I want to start with the moons. We're working with a calendar which started on the 26th of July with 13 moons, and all of them are exactly 28 days, and 13 of them exactly 7 days each. So there is a lot of symmetry and perfection here when we work with this calendar. And the first moon went from 26th of July and is going to finish on August 22nd. So in this wave spell, we are going to be crossing from the first moon to the second one. So from the power of magnetism, which is what we've been experiencing, to the next one, which is going to be the lunar moon of challenge. So maybe a more difficult one, which coincides with the storm energy as well. And this one is going to run from August 23rd to September 19th. And it's going to show us the power of counterbalance. There could be more polarity, situations in relationships, and more challenges that could raise because of the energy that is already playing out. Did you have anything about the moons? And one of the things I wanted to mention here is that we have already been covering in the navigation guide to quantum consciousness each one of the energies so that people know how to work and navigate those. So we've been given navigation tips for number 1, which was the power of magnetism, number 2, which is the power of counterbalance, and number 3, we have already released the first 7 chapters which teach you or guide you on how to navigate these kind of situations and energies.
So is this second lunar moon of the year, is it a Scorpion moon?
That's the totem of the year, yes.
And is the second moon of the year always Scorpion?
Yes, it's always Scorpio. Yeah, it's always the same totem animal. So the first one was a bat. It has to do with the magnetism, guidance, how you can magnetize things towards you. And the second one has to do with the challenges that could come and how you're ready to react. And it coincides really well with the astrology of the moment, with that Mars situation, squaring Saturn and everything. Because you're going to be probably tempted to go into polarities and lots of ideas and things coming and going, and you need to be able to transcend any division and polarity that comes your way. Is the test, basically, is the way I see it.
Right, so I mean, we're obviously both Scorpios ourselves, and so to see this very strong, robust-looking creature here in the image makes me think, it's like, well, okay, that's a very strong totem animal to have for the power of counterbalance, when really one of the core energies of the Scorpion is death and rebirth. So I'm wondering whether this is the month of that death and rebirth energy through the energy of polarization, which is going to very much come up in the astrology we're going to look at in a minute. It is we're in a 12-month process of the energy of the cosmic storm. We're entering into this Wavespell off the back of a cosmic storm glyph. And everything that's coming up in the astrology is squares and T-squares, all of which basically denote polarity and tension. So that is basically what this Wavespell is all about. It's like, can we handle the catalyzation of the polarization within ourselves internally to keep elevating, or are we going to sink under the density? Those are, I think, are the options that we're being presented with. And not only that, Bella, when we look at the goggle box narrative, as we've been talking about ourselves, look left, look right, look blue, look red, whatever denomination, neither direction makes an awful lot of sense anymore, which tells me certainly energetically that we're coming to 0 point. Where again, the astrology shows that there is likely to be a lot of division, and we have to rise above that. So I think that's the baseline energy that the Scorpion
I'd say that they will try to pump fear, chaos, polarization, lots of things in the next, at least in the next month or so.
And as we, I think, did a wonderful job of in the Navigation Guide to Quantum Consciousness, the chapter 2, I think, was the longest one we've done. And we really went way deep into how to work with polarizing energies, because actually without polarizing energies, we don't have a catalytic force to generate manifestation and magic. So we kind of need the polarization energy. And as we've learned ourselves, sometimes we can even generate it within ourselves by generating some sort of polarity in a day 2 of a Wavespell, so that we've got the kinetic energy to use on day 3. So we shouldn't be afraid of polarization. What we should be more thinking about is how a Scorpion would transcend that and alchemize the energy into something useful. I think that
alchemy is definitely a good word for this moment.
Yeah.
Good. So we're also finishing the first castle, and the castle is this first red one of the first Solkin. We are going to be working with the energy of the sun, which is the Wavespell number 4. And we can see it here starting in number 40. So we will be starting day 40 through day 52. It's a very powerful Wavespell, I would say. This Wavespell runs from August 16th through August 28th. This is the glyph for those of you that are new to the Mayan glyphs. I like to show all of the different families. The yellow energy is the one about ripening a process. And with the yellow sun, we are meant to get clarity. So what I see happening in this wave spell is that we're going to be challenged in our beliefs. Our beliefs are definitely we're going to be thrown lots of information where we need to come to a point of clarity, and that clarity, it's only in your heart. You need to come to a place of being grounded and being able to discern. But the energy and the qualities of the sun have to do with illumination, universal fire, a lot of energy and a lot of information, the divine light, enlightenment, cosmic consciousness, gold energy, sovereignty, the solar mind, and mastery, wisdom, knowledge, and bliss. And this energy has the action of enlightening the essence of life and the power of universal fire. So it's a really good energy. I do think that there will be a lot of solar flares and a lot of activity at this point. And it's also going to show us some of the shadow, which is to do with conditional love, limiting beliefs, as I said, expectations. When you put too much expectations on others, that's going to come back to you. When you put too many expectations on your partner, your children, or whoever in your family, it's only you that disappoint yourself. It's not the other person's fault. They're just living their life, but it's you who disappoint yourself. You do it to yourself, as we keep on saying in the from the song that we like so much. Another shadow, there could be some fogginess because of so much coming our way, and also the tendency to hide your light. So we want to encourage you in this wave spell to ignite that inner sun, to show more of your light, to expand more of who you truly are, and to embody unconditional love. I know it's really difficult, especially with strangers, because that is part of what we need to learn to do, to show unconditional love. When nobody's watching, you need to be able to show integrity and this unconditional love. But it's part of the test also, especially when we're presented with a lot of information that is going to be shocking, and you'll need to come to a place of unconditional love and forgiveness. So that's it for the sun wave spell. And as usual, you can follow all of those questions over the next 13 days, and then keep on following the wave spell. A reminder that the course is still available in quantumplanet.world, which is a pre-recorded online course. And through this wave spell up to August 28th, I'm offering a free one-to-one session with a galactic signature reading when you purchase the course.
Nice.
Okay, so your turn with the astrology.
Okay, so maybe just as a bit of a preface to the astrology, I've already mentioned a couple of things, and what you've just shared, Bella, also puts a few more things into place. And what I hope that all of you wonderful folks out there supporting our channel and watching these videos, and hopefully integrating and implementing them as we are in our bid to repair time and create a new cuboid for us all to experience, the new Earth cuboid, is that there is a sequence and a chronology that follows. And the more that you step into it, the more that you see it, the more that you flow with it. And so I think that it's interesting that we're in this really powerful initiatory sequence of the Red Castle in this year of the cosmic storm. The two things are almost sort of coinciding. And so we have this now yellow sun, which, as I mentioned, we're seeing now that there is a huge sunspot that has developed on the far side of the Earth, which is likely to swing round into direct alignment with the sun, actually, as we approach the big astrology I'm about to talk about here on the 19th. And so isn't that interesting, Bella, that the sun is going through this huge amount of energy release, that the highest that we've seen apparently during this sun cycle, and it's also coinciding with the yellow sun wave spell. So you mentioned earlier about synchronicities, and we haven't mentioned this so much, but we call it the synchronic order, right? That is the order of time that we're working to, the synchronic order of time, which is based on synchronicities, which is based on flow, which is how you're in that, because it's always moving forwards.
Yep.
Just wanted to share that. So the energy of the yellow sun is of clarity, and we're currently recording this, as we always do, a few days before the end of the previous wave spell, and we've been in the energy of the blue hand. Every day I've been releasing little 1-minute glyph videos. Hopefully some of you have caught those. They're just a reminder, really. There's a limit to what you can say in a minute, especially for me. You know, what I'm seeing through doing that daily glyph reading just to put out onto YouTube is it's keeping me very, very much in the flow and keeping me on point, even if I'm struggling a bit with some of the other energies from some days to the next. Some days good, some days more challenging. What I'm seeing is that we've been given this opportunity for healing, deep healing. Today is day 10, manifestation of that healing spell, to make sure that when we get to the beginning of the next one, we have clarity in ourselves, because otherwise the belief systems that we've been holding, the dualistic perceptions that many of us maybe have been holding for various reasons, are going to get blown to pieces. Because when I look now at the dualistic narratives being presented to us, neither makes sense. I feel like I have a handle on it in one direction, and then some information comes in. It's like, nah, that means that I can't really ascribe to that particular narrative because I don't agree with that. And so what I'm seeing, Bella, is more and more is that these are coming up in all of the situations that are being presented to us, if you want to look at it. However, if you don't, then you're going to subscribe to the belief system that suits you. So I just wanted to put all of that in there, because what you said, I think, is really important, that our belief systems are likely to not only get challenged, but possibly even obliterated. And that's good. That's a good thing. That is a good thing.
And you can see that we can already feel that, because since from the 14th of August, we felt the entrance of Mercury went retrograde. And then we have already like 6 planets, or 5 planets and an asteroid. We've got Mercury, which is retrograding from the 4th through the 28th, Saturn from June 30th until November. We have Chiron from the 26th of July. So we started the storm year with Chiron retro. And that tells us, wait a minute, we need to finish our healing here before we move forward. And Chiron is going to be retro until December 29th. Then we have Uranus, which is going retro from September 1st until January. And then we have Neptune since July the 2nd until December the 7th. And we have Pluto from May the 2nd until October the 11th. So a bunch of planets telling us, oh, you need to review this and this and that. So everything is for review. And that includes the way we see time, the way we experience everything, the way we have our memories. They have been cropping up, lots of memories from our past, people from our past coming back to see if there is any little bit of karma to be resolved, anything that you can do to make things better so that we can move with a more fluid heart, more light heart from now on.
Right, exactly, Bella. And we mentioned it just a few minutes ago about memories coming up and old things maybe resurfacing. So if they do, I think the trick, like everything right now, is not to push anything away, but to go, you know what, I'm going to dive even more into it. We've been suggesting this, you know, since we've been working together with QPH, is don't try and avoid anything, particularly if it's coming up strongly, reactions, physical symptoms. Go even deeper into it. Find the point of origin. This is something that we learned from the path of the Jaguar. Go to the point of origin, whether it's to repair time, whether it's to repair your physical ailments, whether it's to undo emotional traumas. There really isn't any place for any of them anymore. It's not that they're bad. They've all been here to help us. They've been here to guide us, to help us evolve. But we are now at the time where those things that need to be resolved and let go of. That's the alchemy, I think, that the Scorpion moon is going to give us. Is like we're going to be faced with lots of challenges, lots of polarization. Do we let them consume us, or do we alchemize them and rise above them? So,
you know what it feels like the final test before the big shift is like, okay, have you been doing your homework? Let's have a look. Boom. And so many areas in our charts are now being activated, and they are up for review.
Absolutely. And, you know, in the last wave spell, or the last episode we did of this, we focused a little bit on the Lionsgate portal. Maybe we'd like to hear from some of our audience out there. How did you experience that? The actual day itself, I thought, was a bit weird, but subsequently what I can say is that a lot of great feline energy arrived on the planet, particularly the return of the lion energy, which means that new leadership perhaps is coming in. That's the Syrian connection that many people are tuned to. We both, I think, felt that many beings across the planet, other light workers, were putting a lot of energy into that portal. From my perspective, I would say that it worked. And it is going to be, I feel, a major part of the rebalancing and restructuring is because the goddess is also very much linked to that feminine, or sorry, feline energy. The feminine energy is returning. And as that happens, it's going to rebalance the lopsidedness in our society. And for many people, that could be challenging because it may mean a loss of power and status in their own perceptions. So we also have to be able to step back from that, view ourselves through that filter and say, am I still caught in that dynamic somehow? Or how am I rebalancing my masculine and feminine energy with the qualities of the Syrian cat leaders, which is really what I think the Lionsgate portal was all about.
Yeah,
so,
we're healing that part of the galactic story. And it is a year of balance. It is the storm, but with balance. So we're going to have a lot of energy and many challenges, but just to get to that point of balance in our daily lives. Always reviewing the masculine, feminine. Can I receive? Do I feel worthy and deserving of receiving? Do I include the others? Being inclusive is part of the feminine side. We talk a lot about this in chapters 6 and 7 as well, about integrating and coming to a point of alignment of the masculine, feminine, of the two hemispheres.
Right, so this is really what the astrology is showing us now. We normally try to pull up 2 or 3 charts, but in all honesty, we've done the same here, and we will look at a couple of the minor placements coming up later in the Wavespell, because they do have some relevance. But really and truly, as we can see, the full moon at 27 degrees of Aquarius coming up on August the 19th in the Gregorian calendar is a wham bam slap in the face. Thank you, ma'am. How are you going to deal with all of this? Because almost, I think, every planet is involved in some sort of square or a yod, all of which are difficult transits. So we can see here Jupiter squaring Saturn. That's the first of 3 squares. We'll get into all of these in a bit more detail in a minute, but just to give the overview, Sun conjuncting Mercury on that full moon, which of course is opposing the full moon. We've got a Saturn in a T-square with Venus and Jupiter and Mars. So that is challenging. Uranus in a fixed Earth T-square with the Sun, Mercury, and the Moon. This is all happening on the same day, by the way. So we could feel a sort of kind of energy all happening, getting pulled in, sucked out, whatever, all at once. And we're going to sort of pick our way through these in a minute. But we also
I'd say that between the 15th and the 19th, we're going to see the things really changing, like in the bigger arena, in the world arena.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like to make too many predictions on this show. We try to navigate through the points of astrology, cosmology, and Mayan time to try and make sense, to give ourselves some reference points. We don't know for sure what is going to happen. But from what I'm seeing, Bella, in the energy realms, yes, 15th to 19th looks like the moment where things could go pop. Not because we're doom and gloom merchants, because they actually need to. We are at a point where the tension is at a max. People are stretched to the max. We can feel that with many of our own friends and colleagues, people in our tribe, all expressing the same things that we're feeling. So it's like this is a moment where the upstart Mars, backed up by his big brother Jupiter, decides to confront Daddy Saturn and say, hey, we've had enough of the structure that you've given us for as long as we can remember. And hey, we've got a better idea and we're going to do it our way. So
we'll talk about like tools to navigate these in a little while.
Right. So the reason I'm just mentioning that now, Bella, is because that is the last day of the current Wavespell. So it's literally coming up on the 15th. Yeah. The catalyst that we're looking at is Mars and Jupiter squaring Saturn.
And it's the storm day.
It's the storm
in
day.
the storm year.
A storm year in the healing Wavespell with a galactic activation portal. It's also the Virgin Mary Day in the Greek Orthodox Church. It's also the 15th day of the Ascension or Ascension process of the Virgin Mary, as my local physio has been telling me about recently. And all of that to me suggests, first of all, the goddess energy returning, which could be turbulent because it's been somewhat absent from our world, hence the very yang last few millennia we've had. So many of us would perceive that to be a good thing. If you're in a position of power that's about to get overthrown, you might not see it that way. So depending on where your perspective lies, there isn't really a right or wrong. It's just a sense of perspective. So some of us might be welcoming something, and some people might be saying, that's the last thing I want because I'm going to lose my status. So this is where the energy, I think, of polarization, Bella, is leading us into. So let's have a look at this first chart and start to See what wonderful color coding you've done for us here with the highlighter. Thank you for that. So not only is it a full moon in Aquarius, which I think, as a few other astrologers have said, and I largely concur with, is just weirdness on steroids. Aquarius is the sign of weirdness, for sure. It's also the sign of the incoming, I would suggest, Aquarian age, of course, and the new Earth. Many people also ascribing this to the age of AI, which is something that we are now seeing on the goggle box, is, I think, going to cause a lot of division, because both sides in the current debates, we can say, are offering up evidence that the other is manufacturing their videos. It's got to the point that you can't really tell anymore if they're both doing it or if neither of them are doing it. That's, I think, the direction that many people now understand the rest of this year is going to look like. So like you said, it's not about what you believe being presented, it's about what you believe coming from your heart. Because if you're trying to make sense of the two views that are telling you the opposite about each other, you're not going to get very far, I would suggest. So we've got that energy coming in. This is a time to remain flexible, be conscientious. I would suggest the energy of the full moon is also about greater sovereignty, about more individuality. So we can also see that even through the recent Olympics. There was a lot of that kind of stuff on the lower notes. However, you know, we're all entitled to be individuals. And as we were talking about the other day, of course, everyone can be whatever they want. We don't necessarily have to include whatever is going on for them in our lives, but we have to respect for the fact that they want that for themselves. I think that is a big part of the Aquarian age, right?
I think I want to give my example of going to the library, to the bookshop this weekend. So I was telling David about how I went into this library, and in the beginning I was like, "Oh my God, this bookstore is so woke. It's got all of that agenda and the transgender, the this, and that. All of this stuff was there, and then there were lots of politicians, the same ones." And all of those fake stories and books, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm falling into the same. I'm judging all of those things that are something that I don't particularly like." But what came to me being in that bookstore is that, well, this bookstore is probably like the universe. In the universe, there is room for absolutely everything. It doesn't mean that you have to like everything. You just go to the section you're interested in, but there is room for absolutely everything. Like, if we keep on judging it, then it's just going to keep on growing and being more in your face. So there is a point where you just have to accept, okay, there is room for everything, but these are the books that I'm going to focus on. And so I went to my astrology section as usual.
Right. And thank you for sharing that story, Bella. I think it's a really, really perfect example of, like, are you getting triggered by the stuff that's at the front of the store, or you just ignore that and go, hey, I'm going to go straight to the section that I know I'm going to enjoy? Because we can use that methodology for pretty much anything in life. Am I going to sit and watch videos on YouTube that trigger me, which I have to troll because I have to get my point across? Or do I say, I don't like this content, and I go and watch something I do like and then make a positive comment? Right? You know, I've often thought that's weird when people get really bent out of shape and want to troll people. It's like, well, just don't watch the content. It's
right.
like, don't inflict that on yourself. You do it to yourself, and that's what really hurts. And now you want to give it to somebody else and let them feel you hurt. Why are you doing that? Right? These are genuine, serious questions that we should all be asking ourselves if we're getting triggered and trying to project that. So good for you that you found the astrology section. It's always a better.
Hey, so I wanted to share that particular day, the 19th of August, is a full moon at 27 degrees of Aquarius, and it's probably the most intense, challenging, and unpredictable day probably that we'll have for the rest of the year. It seems like everything is piling up for that day, and there is something else we haven't seen, and it's that there will be a Mercury Cazimi on that day. That day there is a Mercury Cazimi amongst everything else that is going on there. So there could be some clarity and revelations, but because there is so much going on at the same time, so there could be situations with cyberspace, with crypto, with technology. There could be more of these stocks and crypto crashes, maybe. Financial markets could again be affected. Unstable world events. I do think that everything is piling up. We've been hearing it in different groups and news. Something is piling up in the world events. There could be power outages, IT outages, and even, hopefully not, explosions. So a very explosive day. It's what it seems like.
Right. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. There is a Mercury cazimi somehow that had passed because we've been tracking cazimis all year. As anyone who's been watching this show or the Cosmic History Codes with Leslie will remember, it's been something that we've been tracking the energy of the sun, which is why we like our brother Stefan's work so much, because he's going even deeper into that. And that's why I found it fascinating that he's seeing this huge sunspot basically coming into line, possibly for an eruption on this day, weirdly enough. So I think that's also fascinating. And of course, we have the big Jupiter-Gemini square, which we'll talk about a little bit in a minute because it's the first of three. But let's just continue on the energy of the sun for a minute, because it's also in a conjunction, not just with Mercury on that day, but also with Vesta, the keeper of the sacred flame, which I find interesting. So those three may even, I haven't checked this exactly, if all three come into an exact moment where they're all literally direct on top of each other. It may be that it's already happened because, or it will happen before this day because Mercury's retroing back past those two. So I'll have to check on that. But essentially, what we have here is a Yod with the Sun, Mercury, and Vesta at the apex of a powerful Yod. I think you've actually highlighted the wrong one. It's actually Neptune and Pluto, not Saturn and Pluto. So if I put that, that's my mistake. So we can see that that Yod is actually being marked out here on the chart by the orange dotted lines. That is a Yod.
Well, no, I did want to highlight Saturn because I do want to mention a couple of things.
Okay, yeah, sorry. It's probably in relation to something else. My mind was just looking at the Yod. So what is a Yod? A Yod is a finger of God that creates this very challenging lopsided triangle, which can be super powerful. But generally what it means is that we're going around in this powerful sequence that we struggle to break free of. I have two Yods in my own astrology. It took me nearly 3 decades to work them out. But I can say from experiences that they generally create this kind of hamster wheel effect that you just don't see a way out of, which I think is very interesting because many of us are feeling or have been feeling a bit like that for a while. It's like, when is this bubble going to pop so that we can all move forwards? And I'm sensing lots of frustration from other YouTubers and truthers and so on, because we feel like we've been at this point for a while now. And I think we're all wondering, is like, what's going to pop the balloon? Is it this Yod with Sun, Mercury, and Vesta? It's almost like it wants to pop something, right? But at the base of the Yod, we have Pluto and Neptune also in a sextile with each other. So that's interesting. So those energies are supporting each other, but they're very difficult energies, right, Bella, especially when they're in retro. Pluto and Neptune retroing back, forcing us to look at our connection to the sun energy, to the message of the sun even. I think that's an important aspect of today. What is the message that the sun wants to deliver to us? But then we've got this very interesting extra aspect of Vesta. Now, do you have anything you'd like to speak about that, Bella? Any intuitions?
Well, Vesta is the energy of the priestess. I think it feels like the sacred feminine wants to come through and be seen and finally have a word, be able to speak up and say, this has been going on and enough is enough. Let's move on with this.
And so how is that being done? Well, I would suggest it's being done by the base of the Yod, which is Pluto, about to literally, I think, as shortly after this retro back into Capricorn for a couple of months at that anaretic degree, where I think Pluto is going to do the final wrecking job on the old paradigm. So from where I'm sat, that looks a certainty, and Pluto is the harbinger of destruction. And being Scorpio, we know all about that, right? So Pluto is our friend, but some people might find that challenging. And with Neptune also at an anaretic degree in Pisces, that's all about illusion and delusion. And I would suggest particularly to do with medical situations. I think that
very likely.
There are many reports coming out, which probably we shouldn't share here on YouTube, but I'm seeing that there are parts of the world where they're actually now openly talking about this at a government level and saying that they're apologizing even. Now, again, we've got a lot of illusion in our world, so we don't know what reports are true and what not, but we know that that's in the backstory, so that's likely to come up in the next couple of months too. So we've got many things that need to be resolved, right? We've got these Yod experiences that we've been going around in. When is this going to get finished? I would suggest that this 19th, this full moon in Aquarius, is a full moon, of course, is an illumination of our new moon intentions, which we set with the cat beings in Leo. And who are the cats here to support and protect? Oh, the goddess, Vesta, we can say. So I find that very interesting, Bella. So good pick there.
So the other thing I wanted to mention is that square between, that we can see here, Jupiter and Mars are conjunct. but they are squaring Saturn. That's why I highlighted it. And this is going to happen 3 times. So I feel like the exam point is going to have 3 parts. One that is now, which is quite challenging. The second one is going to happen in December, and the third one in June of 2025. So I feel that as a humanity are going to have our test on, okay, let's see what happens when you are put under the grinder, which is what is happening now. We're in the eye of the storm. All of this week coming is going to be the eye of the storm. We're going to be challenged in our beliefs, with lots of intense energies, with lots of information and opinions coming from different directions. And this energy is going to really push us, and we're going to have to stand up, and maybe we'll get knocked down a few times, but we'll have to get up again and again and again. The song that keeps on playing, I told you the other day. But as Zach said to us, you just have to keep on going. I feel that we've been training physically, mentally, spiritually for this final race or for these final tests that take us up to 2025. But this one seems to be the very first and very challenging one.
Right, yeah, thank you for saying that. So just the details there, Bella's absolutely right. The second square is December the 24th, which is, we know from doing the Return of the Light, a very powerful day, post the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, or the Capricorn solstice. And then the third and final one is June the 15th, 2025. And I would like to think by June 2025 that we will be seeing a lot of difference in our world, for sure.
So I don't only want to give what's out there as the energies and be all gloomy about it, and you know, this is going to be so difficult. I think we should talk about solutions as well, and navigation tips. And one of them would be to be very mindful, to not be rushed in your decisions, or if you feel that there is a conflict or maybe a discussion, take your time, pause, slow down, take some time off, don't react immediately, because that's going to be the temptation with all of this very explosive energy. Try to develop more critical thinking. We need to analyze all the data, don't make any rash decisions. Maybe what you believed your whole life is not so, and you're going to be presented with different information, and you'll need to learn to digest it and discern it. Ask more questions, do your own research, and try to find more time to sleep, to rest, review your schedule so that you can find some more time for sleeping, for resting, for grounding. Be patient. I think lots of people that are waking up now and being faced with lots of new information are going to be a little lost or being triggered, and so I don't think that we should be pushing too much, but just be patient and let people digest the information that is going to be presented. I do think that there will be many issues with mental health, and there is where we need all of the people that have been training in healing, in Reiki, in astrology, in you name it. We've all been training for so many years, doing our own shadow work, but also learning lots of techniques that are going to be very needed now and moving forward. One more thing I think is very good is journaling and organizing yourself and your time, and also moving our body, because our body is receiving a huge amount of light, huge amount of energy, and we need to keep on moving it, because there is a lot of old information that is being released through our body. So if there are aches and discomfort, it's normal, but do keep on moving with Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates, dancing, whatever you can find, so that body can deal with all of these shift.
Right. Excellent advice, Bella. And for sure, like, I think one of the overarching energies of this full moon is of creativity, actually. And there's some other aspects I just want to pull in to show that in a second, but also of patience. I think that patience is a virtue right now. Acceptance of each day for what it is also important, and not to think too much about what may happen tomorrow or next week. Even as we're saying that as a preview show, I know that's kind of slightly strange, but we're sort of trying to look into the crystal ball while also at the same time using the daily glyphs of each wave spell to keep on point. What is today? Today is day 10. It's a day of manifestation. What am I manifesting? Blue healing hand. So every day this is my own tip. I'm working with the energy of the wave spell and then factoring in, okay, maybe I'm feeling a little bit out today because of this alignment, and really trying to manage myself. It's not proving easy every day. I'm human like everybody else, but I'm trying to use these tools that we're sharing here to help with that.
I think a very important thing here is also, especially with all of these energy and these square happening in Gemini, and that we need to be very mindful of what we say and how that could hurt others, because people are going to be super sensitive at this point. And so be mindful of what you say or your actions, how that they could hurt the other one, because people are going to be ready to react. So.
Yeah, that also shows its face later in the wave spell, which I'll come to in a minute. But just to allude to a couple of other things that I think are nice, we have Chiron down here at 23 degrees of Aries in a nice trine with, it's a little wide at 3 degrees, but it is there with Mercury, Sun, and Vesta. So that's a positive energy of healing. And that, of course, Chiron there is in a sextile to the moon. So that is a positive energy to work with, particularly on the healing front, particularly with the energy of the goddess returning. We also have the goddess Sekhmet directly in opposition to Chiron, which again speaks to more tension, more healing of the feminine. Also the other side of the feminine, which can be wrathful, which sometimes need to break things down. Hence why we have a Scorpio moon coming up, or a Scorpion moon, we can say. So sometimes we need to collapse so that the phoenix can rise from the ashes and through the flames of transformation. We have to go through that process for that to happen. You know, that's called a reaction to another action. So that's also really positive. We also have the energy here, Bella, in Scorpio of almost a direct, we can say, a conjunction between the warrior priest, Hidalgo, and the warrior Pallas Athena, which I think is also interesting. So a masculine and feminine rebellious energy that wants to rewrite, we can say, particularly in Hidalgo history, working with the energy, in his case, of Our Lady of Guadalupe. So again, the energy of the goddess, which is why we've included some of these here in the chart, is wanting to show itself. Don't you think?
Raising from the ashes.
Right, raising from the ashes. We also, as you said, we have Uranus. Where is it? Sorry. Uranus. Uranus in Taurus is in a direct T-square with the moon and Mercury in the sun. So I would suggest that energy is perhaps going, because they're both in retrograde, right? Or Uranus will be very soon with Mercury in retrograde. So there could be some level of uncertainty. And what you're saying also about what we say is, if we're not certain about what we're saying, probably better not to say anything at all, because the chances as this wave spell progresses, and as we'll see at the end of it, of division and conflict between the words and positions that we adopt in our polarized state will lead to more angst, unfortunately.
And Uranus there is going to affect our mind and our nervous system. So we're definitely going to recommend some plants to work with towards the end. And any other plants that you have worked with before, anything to keep you calm, to not react, to not get into conflict, to be more zen. Definitely.
Right. And so Uranus is the planet of surprises, electrifying shocks, surges. And so I've even written here in my notes, as you've just said, practice soothing nervous system techniques.
Yes.
Because I know certainly, again, from the last few days, I can say that my own body has been experiencing some of that. And maybe that's some of the energy of the sun and the light codes pushing that wherever we have any misalignments in our bodies, it's going to show up, and possibly physically quite painfully. So rather than get frustrated, which is easy to do, perhaps the trick is more to go into like, okay, whatever it is that's slightly out of alignment in my body, perhaps I need to sit under a nice oak tree, for example, and meditate, realign my chakras, check in on my field. Is this just part of the pressure of the moment? There is a lot of energetic stress coming onto our fields, for sure.
Yeah, I highly recommend essential oils. There are some really good, any of the oils that are good for relaxing, for sleeping better. So lavender is one of the favorite ones when it comes to relaxing and being able to chill.
Beautiful plants.
Take the chill pill, this wave spell.
Right, exactly. So
I'm gonna go to the next one.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot in this chart, and hopefully we found that to be a useful sharing for our audience. So we now move on to August the 23rd, and just a couple of things I want to pick out. One is more beneficial. The other one I think is also a bit like the Mercury Cazimi, perhaps not in people's awareness. But Venus, whenever Venus and Mars square off, it's always some sort of balancing tension, I would suggest, between the masculine and the feminine. But before I jump in, Bella, is there anything you wish to say intuitively?
No, I think that confirms what we've been talking about. We're coming to a point of rebalancing of energies. So from a world that has been too young, too oriented on war and industry and destroying the resources and blah, 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 everything that is very young. And now we're going to go into the yin aspect. We need to bring it in and balance them both within ourselves too, within our hemispheres, within our energy, within our partnerships, and obviously in the world as well.
Right, all of the above, like you just said, and also like you just said, we have to be careful about our words because Venus and Mars squaring off against each other in these, well, particularly in the energy, Mars in Gemini is speaking to us immediately of divisory words maybe, or energy coming out of us, which we have to be careful of. And I've written here for this particular transit that, yeah, differences of opinion, sharp disagreements reveal many of us at cross purposes with each other. Maybe our minds are split on issues. Maybe we're even facing those hyper novelty moments, as some people are calling them, where it doesn't matter which direction you put your attention, it still doesn't make any sense. There is no answer to what is being provided. And I think that that is the point of the 0 point at the end of an epoch, is that there is total confusion and chaos. That's how we collapse the system. So unfortunately, it might cause a little bit of head fuzz for even those of us who've got the tools, but hopefully if we know what's coming towards us, which is always why we do these shows, we're better prepared. And I think preparation is key in all of this. So yeah, be careful of your words, particularly if there starts to be some sort of venom that comes out with those words that are designed to hurt or to put people in some position. Be really, really mindful.
Especially because that's when the moon of the Scorpio starts. So Scorpio likes to poke.
Yeah, be careful of the stinger, whether you're friends with Scorpio or not. Thankfully, those of us who are Scorpio are aware of our energies and try to keep them in check. But there are lots of people who are Scorpio who've not done any inner work also. So be careful of that energy. But we all have Scorpio in us. We all have the tendency to lash out if we feel, and this is the energy of a Scorpio, it never attacks unless it's provoked. And it only ever really gets provoked when it gets backed into a corner and then provoked. And that's when you'll see a scorpion raise its stinger and attack. Ordinarily, a scorpion wants to hide out under a rock and not be seen.
No, Scorpios, I am Scorpio, I can talk about this. A Scorpio also likes, I'm going to talk from my side, like to poke, especially before we do shadow work. We like to go and poke, even unnecessarily, because it's the nature. Sometimes it unfolds and then it could create a situation, but then something gets resolved. I'm not saying it's the best way, even though we're in forced evolution, but I'd say this time, let's try to restrain from going around poking too much.
There may be some truth in that, and all Scorpions out there, please feel free to comment on your own Scorpio stinging nature. We all handle it in our own different ways, but all joking aside, yeah, we need to be careful of our Scorpio energies, and particularly if we're feeling backed into a corner or challenged, or if we're being prodded or provoked ourselves, that we don't react in the same way.
And we all have a Scorpio energy. It's not only the Scorpios, we all have Scorpio energy. So see if any of those planets in retrograde are actually in your Scorpio house and are actually more wanting to go out there and create chaos. Keep them in check.
And of course, it is all within duality. So it's not necessarily to say one thing is good or bad, but just to be aware of those energies and how they may be channeling through you and how you're directing them. Sometimes we need to be poked and prodded. Sometimes we don't want that and we don't need it. So that's where we have to be super mindful of whatever advice or suggestions we're offering other people, whether they really ask for them or not, or whether we just decided we were going to give them to them. Perhaps that's also something to think about. So yes, Bella's right there. This is the day where that energy kicks in. We also have a nice little trine going on with Mercury and Chiron, which is more about healing. Maybe we're going to receive some information that's going to enable us to let go of something. Bella, you have something you wish to add to that?
Well, I see again a trine with Pluto, Uranus, and I think, is it Orcus or Venus? I think in between two of them. And I think it's just supporting the transformation, the changes. We're being supported in breaking all of those contracts that don't serve us anymore, relationships that don't work anymore. Change with the changes. I think it was one of the sentences that Zach gave us in the last talk is allow change to change you. So let's flow with the change, keep on transforming. We're waveform, and what we do is we keep on changing and surfing with the energies. And so we want to keep on surfing the higher notes so that we can keep on the evolution and ascension process.
Well, if we consider that Mercury is in Leo, which is the sign of the big cat, of the lion energy, then perhaps we're receiving a message from Hermes or Mercury to show us about how to integrate our lion energy so that we can become more balanced, maybe even step up to places of leadership. But can you just jump back one slide there? But I want to show something which is also coming up on this slide, which is we also have a very strong conjunction happening here with some less obvious stuff, but we have Atlantis, Orcus, Venus and Black Moon, the true Black Moon Lilith, all basically sat on top of each other. We can see that up here in the middle point of Virgo from 14, 15, 18 and 21. So that is energies of the past of what we've been tracking, the reclamation.
And Virgo is the energy of the feminine, of the sacred feminine. And so you can see how Atlantis and Orcus were all of these contracts and situations that went wrong in the time of Atlantis with technology and all things. And now they are here for review. And I know from some of the people that are in our groups and have been doing the courses that many things from Atlantis have been bubbling up for resolution, to release, because many of the people in Atlantis at the time of the fall, many of us are back. Maybe we were there, and there are memories and karmic situations that still need to be released, and the learnings, the lessons reintegrated. So that tells me that that's part of what is happening right now. Lots of people having memories of their lives in Atlantis.
Right, exactly. Well put. So if we look at those four together, and we'll skip ahead to the next slide because they have a slightly different configuration, but we can see now by the 22nd that Black Moon Lilith, so it's marked here as the true. This is actually as it's fluctuating backwards and forwards, rather than the mean Black Moon Lilith, which we see already at 6 degrees of Libra. So this is also how we were able to track the Black Moon Lilith flashpoints in the past, is when the two converge at the same point. Now, I haven't had any of those in my awareness for a while. We normally share them if they come up. But by the time we get to the 22nd, we see that Orcus, the Oathbreaker, and Atlantis and Lilith are all within 15 minutes on the same degree. So that's super powerful. So what we also have there is Venus moving off. And so Venus and Lilith will have crossed over. And so we've got that wounded feminine aspect, or the more, how would you describe that energy of Lilith and Venus coming together in Virgo, Bella?
Yes, I would Lilith and Venus, or Lilith in Virgo.
Well, Lilith in Virgo conjuncting Venus, which is what we've had going on here during this, or will have had going on during this wave spell in this period.
Yeah, we've been talking so much about everything that has happened in the previous, in Atlantis, people coming back with memories that need to be healed, with abuses, with what happened with the priestess and priesthood of the old times, of ancient Egypt, of Atlantis. We know that what happened in Atlantis, some of the priests and priestesses from that time, those that survived, then went on to create the new civilizations, which happened in the Americas and Egypt and many places like that. So I think what we're seeing is how over time, for eons and through different civilizations, similar situations kept on happening in terms of what happened to the feminine, how she was replaced for go and conquer whole territory and then destroy. Seek and destroy is what the young energy did for eons, and we can't let that happen again, because Mother Earth is saying no more. I don't want any more of that. And we need to change. We need to create a different civilization at this point.
Right, exactly. I think that's the the nubs of it all there. We've got these, you know, contracts, maybe some of us even carrying that need to be fulfilled or maybe need to be undone. So we've got Orcus really running the finger over all of that. I've even sensed that happening on a collective level, that there is going to be, yeah, all of our files are going to be looked at, because in the new Earth, it's total transparency. So whatever we've tried to hide from ourselves or the greater public is probably going to come out somehow if we haven't resolved it already. And maybe even hidden things within our body might start to come out. So I see you.
I'd like to get here just to give a few tools. Obviously, working with your astrology is very powerful. Working with stellar nations and integrating the galactic codes is very powerful. Working with your Mayan glyph and with your galactic signature is also super powerful. So if we keep on offering some of the tools that we have, working with the plants, working with dandelion to go back to different timelines and repairing your DNA. So we keep on offering whatever tools we have encountered, but if you have others, please do share so that people are able to go through this part of the process. I think is the most intense part of our shift.
Yeah, I think so too. And so there's a lot to chew on from there. And like Bella just said, definitely, I would suggest finding out where some of these placements, if they appeal to you or resonate for you. We've been looking at quite a few different asteroids and matching them even against our cosmology with our Antares codes and stellar nations. And through that, we've been able to decode quite a bit about the return of the great feline energy, which is also representative of the feminine, all of which has been playing out with the great cat energy in Leo and the Lionsgate over the last couple of weeks. So there are many different ways to track this that make it all very synchronistic and actually, more importantly, even coherent, at least for ourselves. We're able to track our own journey through the tools that we share with you. And we can all do that. And if we all do that, then maybe we'll have a collective coherence, which would be super cool. So where does all of this lead us, Bella, to the final chart of this astrology? There we go. We have Venus in opposition to Neptune. And so I think many of the things we've just talked about come to a bit of a conclusion, because that energy really is also about relationships and finances coming to a head. Anything that's still under the illusion of Neptune in Pisces to do with personal relationships and finances are likely to come up at this point if they haven't already.
I see still the trine that is super powerful, saying Venus is supporting us with being at 29. Is it at 29 of Virgo? In this final part of the review, Pluto is still going retrograde, and Uranus is saying change, change, change. We're here for change, and this is the only way forward. So get comfortable with change and flow with it, whether it is in relationships, in your work, whatever it is. We just need to get very comfortable with change from now on, because we're in the middle of destroying the old world and creating the new one. And if we want a new reality, we need to be able to let go and change, transform.
Right. So in conclusion, I think what you've just said there is really, really probably the point of all of this, is that change is coming. Change is good. If we want to live in a new Earth, that means we have to change the old one somehow. So we have to go through this process. And I know that we'd all rather it was a bit more smooth, but I think we tried the smooth approaches, and now we're into the intensity aspect of all of this, which is going to force #evolutionary change. And the good thing is, even though Venus is in this opposition to Neptune, Bella, the previous day Venus will be trining Uranus, and the day after Venus then trines Pluto. So it's like she's trying to offset the energies, like the stuff that needs to be resolved here needs to be resolved. I'm part of the feminine energy that wants to be rebalanced. You need to listen to what I have to say, but I'm also going to be my very Venusian, goddess, heart-centered energy in the process of doing that. So I think that that's something also for us to
and so that is why it's so important that we work with the astrology and also with the Mayan time, because the shift in the perception of time is super key for this transition from the old reality to the new one. And in the new reality, we need to be very heart-centered, as I showed in the previous slide. We need to be able to liberate ourselves from the constraints of objective time. And our experiences then become the core of our existence. We create time according to our experiences and our vibration, and which are going to reflect the depth and intensity of our inner journey. So our time is going to be directly connected to our core vibration, basically.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Good. So did you want to go to the plants, or did you have something else here?
No, we can go to the plants. The only thing I just wanted to add to this was that the following day after this, so the first day of the next wave spell, which will be the red magnetic skywalker, is when Mercury goes direct. So I definitely see some easing up of that
At the end of August. Yeah.
At the end of August, which we won't get into the astrology of September because that also looks kind of intense.
We'll need a little breather, won't we?
Right. So with all of that in mind, we were wondering which plants to bring in for this. It's always tempting to go to the favorites because they're the best ones that we know to work with. But we wanted to include a plant that we've been working with for quite a while now, right, Bella? Zach talked about it in one of the videos we did with him that's on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, it was one of the first plants actually that came to me and talked very strongly. I even tested it in the lab. And my surprise is that it's got huge levels of silica, and we need silica at this moment because there is so much light coming to us, and we're going from carbon-based to silica-based bodies, and that's what we need to be lighter. So this is going to help us reinforce our energy body. And we need this at this point because also Horsetail works as a semiconductor with so much energy. We need to be able to get rid of the heavy metals in our body and then be able to move the energy around. So this is one of the things that Horsetail has come to do and help us achieve.
Right, exactly. And I haven't written it here on this slide, but it's actually the plant that we use to remove graphene oxide from the body, which is something that we've talked about a while back in other videos. It's definitely something that I think is going to appear in the collective visuals or optics very soon for a variety of reasons, along with lots of other toxic heavy metals in the system. So this plant is excellent for removing graphene, both physically and energetically. We work with it on both levels, shamanically, and for detoxing in the body. We've both done Horsetail detox processes, right, Bella? Found them to be very strong.
Yes, and we have a combo that is very powerful, wormwood with Horsetail when it comes to removing lots of things that are connected to the V and to any other parasites and things like that, energetic parasites, heavy metals, graphene, and a bunch of other things. So very powerful when it comes to detoxing.
Right, so I put here at the bottom a little disclaimer just to be careful with Horsetail. First of all, please do check which variety of Horsetail you're working with. If you're collecting it from the wild, do identify it because there are some that are maybe a little on the toxic side, so be careful. And if you haven't done a lot of inner work, Zach warned us about this, and we've seen it also with a few people that tried this plant and it didn't work with. If you haven't done some inner work, this plant is going to disturb the density in your field, particularly around the stomach area. And so I would suggest that if you've been doing inner work for a while or been following this for a while, this plant's going to be fine for you. But if you suddenly find this video and don't know what inner work or shadow work is, I would suggest perhaps going to other plants to detox first, like dandelion, for example, because this is a super powerful plant. It is here to shift us from one state of being into another. This is a plant from the future for us as future beings, hence why it's going to change our ability to receive light, which
definitely take readings with your body medicine and see if this is the moment for you to work with Horsetail or not, because what we have done is I'm also suggesting to work with oak, because at this point we need to be able to ground, to be centered, and to anchor the new timeline. And so oak is going to be super helpful. I'm working with oak. I've been needing lots of grounding in the last few days. So it could be an essence. It's easy to find the oak essence.
Yeah, and this is, of course, a tree that's very connected to the sun, very connected to the solar order of the Druids, very connected to the messages of the sun and many things like that, which we've covered previously. We almost included dandelion here because it's so connected to the cat beings, to the sun.
You can always work with dandelion, yeah.
Yeah, we pretty much use dandelion most days, right, Bella? We work with dandelion on the physical tincture level. I work with the energy of the spirit of dandelion every day. It's the Time Lord master of synchronicities. So it's very much, we perceive the architect of the newer 5D existence, but it's also very, very good at reducing toxicity, particularly heavy metals, and actually really good at reducing anger in the liver, which, given everything we just talked about, might be something that some of us might need over the next few weeks if we get wound up by stuff.
Yeah, and it's also inviting us to embrace the heart center consciousness. So bring everything to your center, to your alignment, to your heart, and see if we can become more fluid, less confined and rigid, but more fluid with time, with the new beliefs being present. Like I'm sure we all are going to be having to change some kind of belief or idea that we've had deep rooted in us. So be prepared to change, to accept other points of view, other perspectives, to flow with things, to be more intuitive, and to be ready for change. It is forced evolution.
It really is. And we've talked about the oak so many times, but it's what connects us to our cosmic selves, our cosmic ancestors, but also deeply into Mother Earth. And I would suggest that during these more energetic, turbulent times, one of the best things you can do is find a nice spot under an oak tree and meditate for half an hour, and just without doing anything, just let the energies of the tree realign you, get your toroidal field activated, and check in on yourself. If you have the luck to be close to an oak tree, I would suggest doing that every day would not be a bad idea over the next couple of weeks, or indeed for the rest of your life. Why not meditate under an oak tree? There's a lot worse ways to spend your time, right, Bella? So I think that's it for today's show. Hopefully that's given you all some idea of what's coming. We've tried to keep it as balanced without pulling our punches too much. We do see this, I think, Bella, is possibly one of the most critical moments in all of this. And I know we said that before a number of times. Each time was critical, but this one is kind of like the nubs of that Yod. It's like the sun, I think, is going to deliver a powerful message for all of us that won't change.
And I think even though it's going to be a tough few days, weeks, maybe, I'd say let's try to stay centered, to follow our intuition, to be patient, as we've been saying, to still use maybe a creativity, an art, or something that you love, so that you can process whatever is coming our way. That's another very powerful way of centering and using your body and your energy to process. So art as therapy is fantastic. Let your heart guide you on what to do, even if it's difficult. Do a little bit of prepping with your partner, your family, your close ones. And let's do this. I think we've been all prepared for this. We came to this planet to do this. This is our incarnation. We've all been preparing. So not to be fearful, but to try to be strong during this process. And we've got the Sun Wavespell to help us and bring in more light and probably help us move through it the best we can.
And here's something really positive that I want to finish on. So we've got this energy of the yellow warrior, which I think we can see why we need that energy right now to be the warrior. We've got the blessings of the sun coming through, message from the sun with the Mercury Kazemi. And then we go into the second wave spell, second castle rather, of this Solkin, which is the white one, which starts with my own glyph, which gives me a lot of hope, which is the red magnetic Skywalker. The major mission of the Skywalker is to bring 5D heaven down to earth 3D. So I feel like that's what's coming towards us. We are about to step into a new reality. I feel it very strongly in my body medicine that we've reached the end of the old timeline, and the only thing that's holding it up is everybody who's still holding on to it. So if we can all let go of that, we're all going to jump together in the same moment. For sure. That's the only thing.
I'd say these next few weeks, we want to be able to anchor the reality that we want as well, because then Pluto's coming back into Capricorn and trying to review more of the system, more collapse of the system. So we want to be like the oak over the next month or so, hopefully for the next of the year.
Right. And of course, just looking slightly into the crystal ball, we've got that powerful partial lunar eclipse full moon on September the 18th for 25 degrees of Pisces, conjunct Neptune. So I would suggest that is another crunch point just to have in your awareness. And I think we're being guided to get through this next month or so, trying to stay grounded and centered in all the things that we've talked about, and to keep healing and to keep releasing. I think that's got to be the name of the game right now. Is like anytime something comes up, try and sit with it, work through it, release it, use your medicines, use your tools. And yeah.
And as with many of the immersions that we have done, we understand the reason for it, maybe even after we have completed them. And I see now the power of the path of the Jaguar, which helped us be more grounded, and just work more with our body, work with our multidimensional selves, go to the points of origin that needed reviewing, so many things. And what we're going to do with the Path of the Jaguar, because we know many people wanted to take it, but they couldn't, we are repackaging it, and we're going to re-release it as a course version in the next few days, right? So Davyd is in charge of doing that little bit. And when do you think it will be available?
Well, we're trying to release it in conjunction with this next wave spell. So in a few days' time, myself and Josh are just looking at some of the dynamics around it and wanting to make this something that is very useful for people, but we're also conscious of the fact that if you didn't sign up to a 13-day live wave spell, the chances are that you're not going to want to do a 13 delayed wave spell. So we're trying to find a way to maybe change the nature of it so that it delivers the essence. We always work in 13-day wave spells because they absolutely work. And anyone who's done any immersions with us will know that. And that's why we do everything for the Quantum Compass in this way. So we're just working through a few different bits and pieces there. And if you are interested more about the Path of the Jaguar, it is the ultimate shape-shifting magical energy that the great felines are bringing back to us, the ultimate inner transformational qualities, which are ridiculously powerful, but also what we need right now. We need to be like the cat, super stealthy, super shamanic, super transformational, super Scorpio, and super
bringing your inner shaman through.
Yes. That's really what the Path of the Jaguar taught us, was how to be the inner shaman for ourselves so that we can be sovereign. The cats are absolutely about sovereignty and leadership, and we need to find that in ourselves and not look to somebody else to give it to us.
Okay, I think that's very much it. Do you have anything else?
No, this has been a slightly longer episode than usual. So thank you to everyone who's still listening at this point. We always appreciate all of you who listened to the end, and I appreciate the people who commented on that. On one of the other videos I think I did with Pete, so I did listen to the end. Thank you. Yeah, you probably gold star. We tried to make these episodes as concise as possible. We know that people in general, ourselves included, are struggling to receive too much information. So we hope that these shows are useful. Please do hit subscribe, hit like, even share the videos. We want more people to receive this information so that we can all somehow navigate our way to New Earth together, because that's really what we're all about, right, Bella? That's what we're here for.
In Lakesh, everybody, have a wonderful wave spell. We know it's tough, but we can do this. We've been training for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I am another you in Lakesh.